This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing to his first podcast, Sam Circh. We're going to talk about Watch Me Move NYC, affecting thousands of kids in the island of Manhattan and bringing experiences to the childhood education and on the fitness dynamic. I'm going to stick with that. What's up, Sam? Good to see you.
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. So, you know Dave Ganlon for many years. So we've been talking to your agent for now a short 8 years to try and get you on the show. So thankfully we finally worked out.
We finally made it work. Thank you.
Finally got an NIL deal with you, bro.
I know.
Anyway, so talk
Appreciate
about, yeah, of course. Talk about how you got involved in, special ed and, early education, and how fitness has always been a part of who you are, from back when you got your personal training certification at ACE, and, take us forward and, where we are today.
Sure. So my experience in special ed specifically, I was really lucky. My older brother was invited to volunteer to camp, a special needs summer camp up in Rochester, New York, where we're from. And it's a week-long camp. And the high school that we both went to required 100 hours of community service. So I randomly worked this week-long special needs camp at 16, thinking that this would fulfill my 100 hours. I'll get it done in a week, no problem. And I kept going back. And that was 20 years ago. I've only missed one summer in 20 years. And so that was, I was really lucky to have that come into my life at 16, because it didn't change my perspective on special education, or now, adaptive education. It informed that whole, it opened my eyes to what these kids can do. At the time, it was some of these kids were mentally diagnosed as mentally retarded. That's now, the language has changed drastically, but that was the language that I used with my friends at that time, and just seeing how much they can do, and then having to help them through the week. That really, I always kind of knew I wanted to be a teacher, but that was special ed. It's going to be special ed. So I went into that, and then worked at a couple schools in Manhattan, which is how I met Dave. I was working at a school across the street, moonlighting as a bartender there. Teachers, as you know, typically need a second gig going on. And then during COVID, got personal trainer certified and started Watch Me Move, because as I was sort of transitioning out of the classroom, I was working at the second private school, not super into it, was picking up coaching jobs here and there, just seeing that most of the fitness outlets for kids specifically were super this sport. You can play baseball, you can play soccer, you could basically do a team sport, you can do an individual sport. But if there's somebody in between, there's not really too many options just for a kid to move in a fun and safe environment. Sure. So I started Watch Me Move. It was COVID. I had just gotten my personal training certification. I had really just started working with adults when COVID hit. So all of a sudden, my two certifications, teaching and personal training, those industries were closed during COVID. Started Watch Me Move, did some online things, trying to build it up a little bit. And then once school came back, got into a couple different contracts with schools. I would go in, schools, private little schools that didn't have, a gym space. They would go to a gym. I would be sort of their gym teacher. So that was the start. And then that grew into private sessions with kids. I always kind of envisioned a big group of kids, outside. Outside makes it a little bit tricky, the weather, but it stayed mostly private. I do small groups of kids. I was primarily based on the Upper East Side for quite a while, because that was where the last school I was at was. Then during COVID, shifted more the clients up to Washington Heights. And now I have a soccer Saturday program up there that 2 years back was 8 kids, just randomly started. I frankly never even played soccer. I just run, groups of small kids well. And in the 2 years we've been doing it, it's now, I have 36 kids every Saturday, and it's just me putting a bunch of equipment on my back and lugging over to the M4 bus and going up to Fort Tryon Park and just doing it. So I've been lucky to, certain things in my life have led me to certain ways, and seeing, sort of niche markets that, youth fitness being one of them. New York, these kids, a lot of these kids are maybe over activitied, I'd say, but the parents are certainly always looking for things to do after school. So it's been fun. Still Still room to grow, but we're growing day by day.
Yeah. So as of right now, you're, this is a relationship business, obviously. So you're using public parks and gyms right inside of schools for this.
Exactly.
Are there any large after school activity, like whether it's government or it's like nonprofit that are catering to these kids, and then you could either have a partnership with them or you're affiliated with them already, or is it kind of like very fragmented?
Those partnerships, I'm working on them now because at least now that 3K has happened, Universal 3K in New York, and then now there's going to be even expanded to 2K, I think, with Mondami. They're focusing more on, early childhood education, early just, and then daycare, frankly, So I think those opportunities will come more with the public schools. I would love to have a space, it's just, like you said, I'm a relationship based. I could just with soccer pay rent for most of the space for the month, but then it makes it real tricky real fast when you're only bringing in half of what rent would be. But yeah,
Hmm.
still trying to realizing I need to maybe partner with somebody else. One of the schools I work at, a small little Montessori school up in Washington Heights, they run an after school and their space is too small. So we're going to try to see if we, as the couple programmers that help run their after school program, if we could just do it. Because all I always say is I just need the space, build it and they will come. Like if I have the
Hmm.
space, the kids will come. I've been making it work outside and parents will go as, cold as possible, frankly, but it doesn't always work. So hopefully teaming up with a couple people and then maybe being able to present to a school, if we can use their, gymnasium space. I don't know what's available after school, but even a classroom kind of opened up is good enough for 10, 12 kids.
So, what I got a couple of different questions here, but do these kids also play in any kind of leagues, or is it typically more of like structured and more of just like in a small group, or are there actually like leagues?
Some of the kids that I've worked with have gone on to more structured sports, but the way it's fleshed out, and then with my first contact set from a special needs school in Manhattan, it kind of most of the clients are the kids that don't quite fit into, maybe wouldn't quite be ready for the baseball team or the soccer team, aren't quite there yet. Some of the soccer Saturday program though, some of those kids, I'm pretty honest with the parents and I'll tell them, I'm real good with, 3 to 5, 3 to 6 year old for soccer. But if your kid's really interested, maybe you should check adult out, a little bit more of an official program. So some of the kids have gone on, there's super soccer stars, there's sock rock, there's a bunch of good ones, a little bit more, they have teams that can play other teams. Me, it's just, kids in the field. So mostly I kind of envisioned that it would be a mix of maybe elite kids who just want to do personal training. They need that extra step. And then kids that need the extra help. It's mostly turned into kids that sort of maybe need a little extra help. A lot of the kids in New York City, just core strength is missing from a lot of the kids. I hear it from all the parents. I see it all the time. Unfortunately, with too many kids in the city, parents will bring them to a playground and let them run around for an hour and be like, okay, that's our outdoor time, which is perfect. That's good outdoor time. But it's built for their safety. It's built for them to easily climb and move about. It's not really
Right.
utilizing their core unless they're hanging and really doing the monkey bars, which kids, I hate to be back in the day, but kids used to be able to do the monkey bars. And now it's a skill that's not as there as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, my clientele, it's mostly the soccer is a little different because some of those kids are so young that it's just their first group activity ever. But mostly kids that don't quite, maybe aren't so interested in, the real sport thing. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Have you seen? There's a couple of franchise concepts out there. One's called Kids United, and another one's called Kids Strong. Kids United is around organized soccer for. I
Hmm.
think it's indoor soccer. A guy named Alex out of New Jersey is doing that, and then Kids Strong, which was partnered up with several Orange Theory franchisee owners. I know that was kind of getting kids after school, doing a
Yeah.
lot of confidence building, core training, so on and so forth. Um, Do you view, if you said if you had a location, do you view it as like a potential like retail location, or if you had a like a school where you could like take over a field and that's kind of like your domain?
What we were looking at, like a spot that would be, the idea would be kind of a sensory gym. I wanted to call, the Watch Me Move Center for Movement, Arts, and Play, and have a sensory gym aspect that throughout the day you can come in with your family and just, for a pretty low price, I was hoping, rent to be able to use the rock wall, and rent to be able to come in, use the space. And then around those times in the morning, serve who's available. The babies are available in the morning, earlier afternoon, maybe have your toddlers, and then, right after school, you can do a full after school program. Also, a huge opportunity for, when kids are out of school, parents are always looking for something, especially in New York. There's so many now holidays. There's Eid, they just had, there's Juneteenth, these 1 day holidays that parents forget about. So just that kind of, not to, I wouldn't want to think of it as a childcare center, but, an activity day with Watch Me Move at the center, that would be kind of the dream. It's just been it was a leap. I wasn't quite ready to jump yet, but
Uh, do you find that these large facilities like the 92nd Street Y, that they're receptive to entrepreneurs, coaches like you, or do they kind of employ their own people and programs exclusively?
I I haven't reached out much. Just I've done. Sometimes a parent will want to do a birthday party and they'll book the Y, and I'll do it. And it's, I'm working at the Y kind of separately without them. I've never really done it too much, mostly because it's just stayed me. I have a lot of after school stuff. I have the soccer Saturday. I have one summer camp contract. I'm hoping to expand that. There's a gym. You might know, on the Upper East Side, called Asphalt Green.
Yeah, sure.
I work with them. I work with them for summer camp. I'm hoping to. My first expansion would be, really, they have a Battery Park City location. It would be nice to get a Watch Me Move coach down there. So there's other ways I was trying to expand. With those specific places, I think they're a little bit more concerned with just, we want 90 seconds wide programming here. I think, not to say they're not open to working with other people. Some places that have been opening up that are really, really cool in the city, and I would love to be a part of, I just don't think they want programming like this, are places, I don't know if you've heard of them. There's a new place called Space Club, or Club Space. There's a couple in Brooklyn, huge warehouse spaces that, 3 levels, that is just the coolest sensory gym, like trampoline room, this, like, it's, and they have like a bar and a cafe. So, like, not to say I'm like competing with that, but like, when I reach out to them and I'm like, this is a great space for programming, they're like, well, why would we pay you to do it? We already have this beautiful space here. So I have reached out to some 92nd Street Y. The funny thing about New York, though, is just, I realize, I'm up in Washington Heights. I used to be based more out of Upper East Side, Upper West Side. Now it's like I'm just kind of seeing that if I could just focus more on Upper Manhattan, which I think there's a dirge, is that there a deli? I don't know what the right word is, but there's not a lot. Any of the younger kids sensory gym stuff, it's not coming even past Midtown. So
Yeah.
Upper Manhattan, I do find, is such a ripe location for something
Yeah,
like that.
stick to your neighborhood. There's plenty of
Yeah.
density up here. Just one idea. We had a podcast that Dave and I met with a group called the Athletic Club, I think is what they were called.
Mhm.
And they basically do not have, they had bricks and mortar health clubs, but they actually had people become a member of a team, and then that team would go around and do workouts together. I wonder if like there's a way to kind of build like a membership base and then kind of like port it around, you know?
Yeah, I think that would honestly be ideal. And I think of it for, like, because I'm not a business guy, frankly, but there are certain things I'm seeing, such as experiences. People want to do things. People aren't going to the bars as much. They're doing run clubs.
Hmm.
So I think, honestly, and I do have a pretty good network, like this, soccer Saturdays, maybe if they would be just, walk it out Wednesdays or something with the families. Cause I think building community, like, in these, in these times, no matter what side you're on, like, I think the people around you become more and more important, and the community that you built for yourself. And so that's all we're trying to do. So that's honestly a great idea.
Talk about this Rochester camp that you go to for the last 20
Yeah.
years. What's that about?
Oh, it's an amazing place. Genesee Valley Rotary Camp. It's really, I feel so lucky to be a part of it. So it's 60 plus years now. They started in 63 and it was fully funded. It's always been free for a week for these kids in the southern tier of Rochester, which is a pretty poor kind of area. A lot of kids with disabilities, and from ages 8 to 21, free for the week. It's at a Boy Scout camp. And they do all the traditional camp things. They're sleeping there in a tent, arts and crafts, archery, riflery. It's one of the few, they're, 22s, but it's a real camp experience. And I didn't quite see it for what it was when I was 16, but, now growing up there, it's just a bunch of amazing people taking so much time to put that together. It's still free. A lot of it's not, the Rotary International program, it's diminished 80% in those 60 years, so they can't fund it anymore. So it comes down to a couple fundraisers. My buddy, Jake Miles, who's been working at the camp for probably 25 years. He lives out in Long Island. He does a fundraiser every year. A bunch of other people do fundraisers. Watch Me Move has been able to donate over the past 4 years $20,000 to GVRC. So it's just been, I learned about community from there. And my wife's actually due Saturday. So I think this might be the first year. Thank you. I think this might be the first year I miss the second year I miss a full week. But I hope it's still there. They're the Boy Scouts aren't doing too well, so they might sell the camp that Genesee Valley Rotary that they operate out of, but we are being told that it will just move. It will still happen. But it's a really special place, honestly. Yeah, Genesee Valley Rotary Camp.
Awesome. Is your first child?
Oh yes, yeah, first child. Yeah, due officially on Saturday. If you can believe it, my wife knows the gender. I've made it the whole time. I want to be surprised, so I have no idea.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There's a bunch of drawers I can't look in, things I can't see yet, but
dude, that's got to be pretty difficult. So I kind of like after a baseball game or something, like, don't tell me who won, because I'm gonna watch it after.
It's just 8 months of that.
That's great. Good for you. Well, look, man, it seems like you're doing great things for a lot of people around the city. I know it's not easy being an entrepreneur and kind of, moving around and trying to create opportunities and experiences for kids. So hat goes off to you for dedicating your life to helping people that need it. And I'm sure the people that are around you, get a lot of confidence, and it probably helps them, get to a good place. As a kid, can't be easy these days.
I really, really appreciate that. And I try to just help the kids feel as good about themselves as I can. It's one of my favorite. I think it was Maya Angelou. She said, all people remember is how you make them feel.
Yeah.
Make people feel good.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, look, we do a little bit of business on this end. So as you kind of think through your next set of ideas or venues, if we can be helpful to make some introductions, because I do think you should be able to get some field space that, would be more of a permanent or semi-permanent spot for you. We can help you do that. So
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on, man. Good to see you. We'll get this. Let us know the gender and the name of your child.
I'll fill you guys in. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun. Thank you again.
This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks, your captain speaking. I am the founder and managing partner at Integrity Square. We've been around now for 15.5 years. We have been helping people like yourselves get capital, do mergers and acquisitions, consulting, strategic advice in the health, active lifestyle, and outdoor Halo sector, trying to help as many entrepreneurs as possible get to the next level, take that inflection point, and be the force behind your growth. We are helping companies that have at least $3 million of EBITDA, around $10 million of revenue, and we are positioned to help you get institutional growth capital or to negotiate deals with strategic partners. If you go to integritysq.com/ISQ, you can see our capabilities deck. Happy to set up a consultation at any time. That is free of charge, and we look forward to helping solve obesity, loneliness, and diabetes. Go Halo.